masters, piano classes.
All girls have hobbies. So the new theory is that
high-value it girls have hobbies.
Hey, what do you like to do besides be on your phone?
We are being told the advice that hobbies are essential for well-being and living a balanced life. But what if hobbies and the pressure to have them is actually hindering us rather than helping us? If you take a look at my channel, you'll notice quickly that I am a serial hobbyist. I love to read, I love to crochet, I like to cook, I like to journal, I love puzzles. I dabble in coloring and painting too. And although these creative hobbies bring me a lot of joy, I can sometimes find myself in this spot where if I feel like if I'm not creating, I'm not being quote unquote good. So I want to deep dive into this topic and highlight maybe some of the dark side elements to the hobby world. Dun dun dun. Wow, doing videos with microphones really does feel very professional. Ignore this wire here. Aside from that, very professional. Hobbies on their own, not a bad thing. Actually, I think hobbies are great. They've added so much positivity to my life. They give me this excuse to not scroll on my phone, which I think I'm always looking for more opportunities to distance myself from social media and the inevitable doom scroll that can happen on there. I really gravitate towards creative hobbies specifically too, because it allows me to tap into my inner child, be really tactile, and just kind of practice the art of anti-perfectionism, of not trying to be perfect all the time. So I make a lot of content that really celebrates hobbies, and I bring you along with me as I try new things as well. And there are a lot of people that do this on the internet too. Who doesn't want to see someone paint something from scratch or make something delicious from scratch? I don't think this is bad. I think there's so much connection that happens from sharing these things with other like-minded people on the internet. Where it can become a little cautionary is when we are suddenly thinking that we have to be doing something, we have to be creating something to have spent our time wisely, that you lose this opportunity for social status if you don't have something that you are so incredibly passionate about that becomes your whole personality. Sometimes you can just dabble. You do not have to go in 100%. You can just do something one day and never do it again. You can paint a picture tomorrow and just never paint anything again. You do not need to become a painter or be on a mission to become a painter for it to be time well spent. Nor do you need to turn it into something that you monetize too. Because I think that can be often a theme with hobbies as well, is that you start off with this creative intent with something that you're doing, and then boom, now it's also your business. Yes, there are certain hobbies I have as pretty persistent hobbies in my life, like reading and journaling and crocheting to a certain extent, although I haven't been very good at crocheting this year, which even the fact that I'm saying I haven't been very good with crocheting this year, we're gonna get back to that. What is that language that I'm using? But then I also love to take you along with me as I try new things. I try painting, I try creating a DIY gift bag, or I make felt garland. I love just exploring new things too. And I think part of the reason I think it's so great to try new things is to get myself out of autopilot mode. Routines are great and important, but sometimes you just need to shake those routines up. And I think for me, hobbies and trying new things can be a way to do that. Indulging in hobbies is also a really great way to decompress, de-stress, take a break from real life, from work, from whatever is getting in your head, and just focus on the task in front of you, keep you hyper-focused on the task in front of you. And that can be really relieving. It gives you a break. But you could argue that if you're always just doing things, whether it's a hobby or not, you're kind of adding another layer of distraction from the real issues that you're trying to navigate in your life. Sometimes we need silent time or time that isn't being reserved for something else, whether it's a hobby or not, to just think about our life and the things that we want and the moves that we want to make. I'll use the example of reading because for the past 10 years, I've been reading 80 plus books a year, which is a lot of books. The average person does not read that many books a year. I don't know what the stat is, but it's well above normal. I specifically told myself at the beginning of the year that I don't have any specific reading goals because naturally I'm going to read that much. I read at night before I go to bed, maybe on the weekends, definitely on the weekends, I'll read some as well. But with that in place, that's what I get out of it is around 80 books a year. So to try and work towards 100 books a year or just something really excessive, which is funny to say because I know the current amount that I read a year is already a lot. I know I'd be taking away time that would be going to socializing, that would be going to doing something that isn't reading, like just having more space in my life. There are things personally that I need to work on this year, that I mentally want to work on this year. And by just making this too much of a dominant force in my life, more than it already is, would be just creating less opportunity for me to focus on the other things that also really matter to me. We need space in our life to exist. And that means that we have to be okay with not being perfect at something to still do it. And we have to be okay with not using our time in always the most productive way. Hobby culture online is definitely something I contribute to. I am the pot calling the kettle black. I am kettle. So I am very familiar with the fact that there's content online that exists and that I've created in some form that goes along the lines of, back to the book example, I read 100 books in a year, how I transform my hobby into a side hustle, or my 5 to 9 after my 9 to 5. We as creators are always looking for an opportunity to storytell. How do I get people in to share this piece of information, to inspire, to motivate? And I don't think there's this bad intent behind it, especially if someone's sharing their passions, which is usually what people of any hobbies, whether they're creative or not, are doing on the internet. But if I take my creator hat off and put on my viewer hat on, and you're just getting bombarded with all this type of content on every single platform, you can feel like you're not doing enough. So I think it's important to flag here that you have to be mindful of the fact that for at least some of the creators you're following who do this type of content, including me, this is their job. The cozy creator who video games all day, the creator who bakes new treats every single day, makes gorgeous meals for them and their family, the creator who is always making something artistic on the internet, and every week you're just inspired and in awe of what they put together. If they are a full-time creator, part of their job is to create and to film themselves doing these hobbies. So part of their workday is being allocated to doing these things that they share for you to be inspired for when you're not working. And I think that's an important cycle to remember, because if I had a typical 9 to 5 job, would I still be interested in reading and journaling and these other things that I love talking about here on the internet? Of course, because I guess I shouldn't say of course, but from my personal experience, these are things I loved before I started making content about them. But if I had a traditional 9 to 5, I probably wouldn't be able to do nearly the same amount that I do today, because at the end of the day, sometimes me crocheting a new project is a scene or a part of a YouTube video that I'm filming, or me meal prepping for the week is part of a video that I'm putting together. I just recently did a meal prep video, and I filmed that whole video, I think was it a Sunday or a Monday? Either way, I was filming it. So it was part of my work that I was doing. Yeah, I have more hours in the day than the average person my age to dedicate towards these things. And that doesn't mean that you shouldn't dedicate time towards these things if they are of interest to you, or that it's impossible for you to dive into these hobbies if they're of interest to you, but that you should not put these expectations that it needs to be this dominant force in your life for you to claim it as your own. If you are someone who loves reading, but you only read 1 book a year, you are a reader. If you are someone who loves, I'm going to keep on the themes of my own hobbies, but loves crocheting, but you crocheted no projects this year, you are still a crocheter, okay? You do not need to be mastering these hobbies all the time at every phase of your life too. You can have different priorities during different times of your life. That doesn't mean that isn't still part of who you are. Time is fleeting, so having more of it is a privilege. And there's also an element of expenses that can come with hobbies too. Certain hobbies really do require you to invest in them before you get into them. And that is something I've been very mindful of for myself personally, and in how I talk about hobbies on the internet. Wherever I talk about them, is that tiptoeing into them is always the best approach. Right now, I am starting my own sourdough journey, which I am vlogging and taking you along with me. But sourdough is a journey that can feel like comes with all these things that you need to get to start your sourdough starter, sourdough bread making journey. There's the things that you need to grow your starter, obviously the ingredients, but then above that, there's special bread baskets and there's bread scoring devices and there's Dutch ovens, very expensive, colorful, beautiful Dutch ovens that you can get. And I told myself that, I can build my sourdough collection or sourdough tool collection slowly, but to just get started, like I can find a way to cook sourdough bread in something that's not a Dutch oven. Like I don't need to invest in a Dutch oven for the first time to do that. Or I can steal my parents' Dutch oven and try making the bread in that first before I invest in this pricier kitchenware dish. Although it's something that is supposed to last you a lifetime. That is neither here nor there. I'm getting distracted. I just wanted to do this and try it with as minimal investment as possible. Same with watercolor painting. I got into that a little bit last year. I bought a really cheap set of watercolor paints and brushes, I think from HomeSense, and watercolor paper. It was probably all under $15 or $10, and it's been great. That's still what I use if I want to deep dive into that or dabble into watercolor, but I don't need like the fanciest, most high quality watercolor paints because I haven't proven that like I need to have that level of investment in my painting tools. But then the things that I do show I am consistent with, like journaling, I am okay with splurging a little bit. So explore hobbies with as little cost as possible and then invest as you show and prove to yourself that you actually are interested in the thing, because then that frees you up to try a lot of different things and find the thing that really clicks with you too. Self-care is this all-encompassing word. At the end of the day, it just is the act of doing something for yourself. And sometimes that does mean the fluffy stuff like the baths and the face masks. And sometimes it means signing up for that class or calling that phone company to talk about your phone bill, the call that you've been putting off forever, or booking that appointment. But self-care at its core also doesn't have to be something to be self-care. You can be doing nothing to rejuvenate. You can be resting to rejuvenate and reset. You can take that nap. Be okay with doing nothing. Sometimes doing nothing is the most productive thing you can do. Some of my hobbies are genuinely things that help me feel better mentally, like doing yoga, Pilates, or journaling. Like these are things that are huge for my mental health. As much as I believe in these things as daily habits I should be consistent with, because I know I feel better when I am consistent with them, I also don't want to punish myself if I have days where I just don't have it in me to do them. We owe it to ourselves really to be listening to what our bodies and minds need every day. And that may look different every single day. Life can be messy at times. And to add all this extra expectation and pressure, it's doing you no good. And that is something I'm saying to you, but it's also something I'm saying to myself. Bring it back to that crochet comment I made earlier. I have not crocheted anything this year. And I'm ashamed in part to say that, but I'm also annoyed that I feel ashamed to say that, because what does that matter? I still love crocheting. I still love creating things. I just, at this moment in time, it's been on the back burner in my life. And I'm feeling the need to get back into it. So I'm like looking for that next project that's going to spark something in me. And when I do it, I'll be back. And it's there for me whenever I need it. And that's great. And I'm still someone who crochets, even though 2025 hasn't been this, look what I've made, look at this, look at that, look at this. We've heard it before and we will hear it many times going forward, but balance is key. And unfortunately, it does seem like that is also the case here with hobbies. If hobbies are making you feel great and you love spending your time on them and it's bringing you joy, fabulous, fantastic. But if it's something that you have these expectations for and you're suddenly feeling guilty if you're not doing them, or you're feeling like you're not doing them well, that's when I think it's important to reassess why we're feeling that way and to take the pressure off, because at the end of the day, we all have different levels of time available in our schedule to dedicate towards things that we're passionate about and that fuel our cup. And we do want to make sure it's doing just that. It's fueling our cup and it's not adding some unnecessary stress into our life. Do you have a hobby yourself? Do you think you need to have one? Are they overrated? Write it down below. I want to know. Me and my microphone are tapping out. We'll see you next week. And until then, ciao guys.
I should've known better, I should've known.